I used to think I knew so much. Now I realize I am always learning, always. So much of what I had gotten right was right merely in the rationalizations of that particular subject, which is so easy to do. When church had always taught me that all we need is God, alone, just God, that we should be so empty of ourselves, completely abandon ourselves, to be filled only with God, that actually couldn't have been at all honoring to God. We simply were not even designed this way. We still believe that we are so individual so severed from our oneness with God, that when God made us as ourselves, as a complete package of who we are, that He so messed up on us because we somehow went and effed it all up, that now we have to live lives cutting off ourselves instead of the latter, which would be being taken out as a race. We are taught that we are inherently such bad, sinful people, and that we ought to die. But we have this one saving grace, this descendant of God that took sort of pity on us in our helpless state, essentially, and graciously provided us a way out of our imminent deaths. I am willing to question everything that I know, everything. I am unafraid to dig for the truth as opposed to remaining duped and deceived. We live in the constructs of a world currently that thrives off of its people being controlled and uninformed. They are masters at implementing strategies over every aspect of every citizen into our personal lives, strategies which make us deeply fearful of questioning what we are taught. They are afraid of a people who has knowledge, because knowledge is power. So you better believe that every aspect of our lives is going to have a strategy to implement control. This is not a free society. We are sheep for the slaughter. I am willing to question every angle, willing to suspend prior beliefs in order to make total sense of a matter. And do not tell me that I have so little faith because I dare to search out a matter for anything that actually makes some sense. It's not even what Jesus said. We are extensions of God, and we are being asked to put to death ourselves in order to have favor with God. So much of this is such severe mental abuse, it is not even funny. I know some will say now, by this point, that I am not even a believer and that I am a sinner, and maybe that I'm not even saved, just for me saying this. So go ahead then, make your judgments. I am Zandra the Explorer, and someone has to be brave enough to question that which no one else is willing to, that which we are manipulated into never questioning. To cut ourselves off from ourselves is to create mass trauma and mass problems on a huge scale. Religion has taken masses of people in the pews and tripled them by the broken pieces they've made of their minds. The deception runs so deep. I believe these are the sheep that are being spoken about, and the ones who carry the deception out are the wolves. The God that I know, I believe, does not ask its people to destroy themselves in order to be in His favor. God is something of such entirety and wholeness and completeness that it falls completely beneath our comprehension. We can't contain Him as much as we try. We usually say He, but to assign a gender is always too small of a descriptive word. Wouldn't it be a wonder to realize that we are part of God, we are part of everything that makes up this universe, and He is part of us? So much so that to encourage our own destruction is to encourage His own destruction. You may want to tell me that I'm headed for hell now. Go ahead. You make your choice whether you listen to me or not. You don't have to be here. These are my thoughts, my experiences, and this is my channel. You don't have to come to my church. So much of my observation in church has shown me that the majority of people come to the feet of God to run from and to avoid themselves, and hope that their scars are simply replaced with the scars of Jesus because the pain of their own scars is too much for them to handle. Effectively, all that happens is that those scars get eclipsed. They are hidden. They never go away. We tell ourselves that the monsters aren't there anymore. It's very convenient. And then we commission ourselves to go out and love the world to God when we don't even love ourselves, nor are we loving God by doing so. To add to it deeper, we excuse ourselves away with the blood of Jesus, or Yeshua, to wipe away these sins, to wipe away these things we are unwilling to face. I have observed the ease in which someone in a church setting can show sacrifice and show expressions of a perceived love because of the reward, the blessings of God in return for it. It's actually very easy. But to take them out of the church to do their deeds might begin to bring them face to face within themselves the things that they thought had been washed away. The things they thought, these things in fact will wash away their piety. Our own punishment comes from the many fractures of ourselves that haunt us, pieces of us that we can't kill. This does not hold water very long. This is a deeply dug ditch if I ever did see one. We can't run from ourselves. Nor is God okay with us running from ourselves. Nor was God asking us to even do this. How can I trust a system which employs so many mindless tactics of mind control? How can I, God? God cannot redeem us of anything if there is nothing at all there to redeem. But yet there is so much we've put a blindfold on toward. Sometimes I dream of myself being scolded by God, but then I turn and look, and it was me punishing myself. I believe that if we reunite with ourselves, we reunite with God. We open ourselves up to receiving Him. I picture Him being the final completion of all of our pieces. The world is full of emptiness. People are so empty. Since we were born, we all started to tear vital layers of ourselves away, whether we remember or not, in order to be acceptable people in this world, in order to have love. We lost our wholeness purely by the act of coming into this world in our physical form. We abandon ourselves when we decide to separate ourselves from what we truly are. We then separate ourselves from ourselves, which separation from where we originated. We are then full of grief because that's cause for grieving. To be empty of ourselves is to be empty of God. Do you understand how we are extensions directly of God? The loss and abandonment of ourselves is the loss and abandonment of God as well in the big picture. This separation, these losses play out in our lives throughout, repeatedly. Let's clarify all of this. We suffer the original separation throughout the duration of our lives, as Teal Swan put it. The ripples of that original transgression travel outward, even unto our deaths. Why do we complicate this? Our grieving is God's grieving. When we separate ourselves, we separate from God. Do you see now how closely linked we actually are? We are extensions of God. We are not separate units apart from God. We are connected to Him, all of us. And as Teal put it so beautifully, we suffer to the degree that the desire within us to be whole again is strong enough to draw us back to ourselves. Instead, we run away from ourselves and from each other and deem that we are saved. Essentially, we use this character of Jesus as a mask. The entire scale of emotions is an expression of this mass grieving process amongst us all. Teal said our separation from people in our lives and the feeling of loss it brings, it is but a reflection of the original loss of ourselves upon our birth. Birth onto this planet requires a splitting of ourselves. And for as long as it takes to reunite with ourselves again, we will lose our loved ones. The grieving we all experience on a basic level, I believe, is the grieving of having lost a loved one. And we have all lost our loved one, ourselves. This grieving unites us all, but yet tears us apart. Now it plays itself out in the world. It accounts for all our actions as a species. We are so scared. We bargain with ourselves. We bargain with our parents. We bargain with the world. There is a hole in every one of us. That may sound familiar. Teal says one day we either die because of it or we find acceptance, one or the other. To set ourselves free of this prison, we must head right into the eye of the storm of grief instead of running from it. So we must let ourselves grieve. We must make a vow to never abandon ourselves again, to be completely with ourselves in every moment of our lives, instead of severing ourselves off from ourselves. It is to do the opposite. Healing is to experience the opposite, without needing ourselves or the way we feel. So we must make a vow to never abandon ourselves again, to be completely with ourselves in every moment of our lives, without needing ourselves or the way we feel to be different. Thank you, Teal, for these insights. Let me know if this resonates with you. This is hard to swallow, especially if you too are someone who has been a student of one set of perceptions all your life. But I have always been on a search to find the true God because I always knew there was more than this. It always brings me back to the healing of myself. By the way, people don't hate Jesus. They don't hate you if you follow Jesus. They hate seeing their own shadow.